but this is finding money and creative financing. And so many of us would love to get started in real estate, just not sure how to. And actually the biggest way and the biggest leap that you can make in just your learning in general is understanding the financing behind buying real estate and the financing behind growing your real estate. So a little bit background on me. I bought my first duplex in 2013, which some of you are aware of. Loved what that did for us financially. We were able to offset our living expense by living in one unit and rent out the other unit. Worked so great, we said we're going to buy one a year from there on out. Bought a handful in the last probably 7 years. In that time, I actually became a loan officer with Kim Burke of Leader One, who specializes in helping clients buy small multifamily properties. So I studied under her for 2 years and learned a lot about the financing world. And then I joined Drew and we started Side by Side Realty. And so that's a little background on why I'm passionate about financing, because it's helped me grow my portfolio. And I've also seen a lot of people find a lot of success with just understanding how to leverage it. So that's what this presentation is going to be about. And back when Drew and I were doing some real estate, we bought our first property, and like I said, we were living in it, and we were pretty broke. We had a huge student debt. We were working entry-level jobs out of college, spending money as fast as it came in, and we went out, going on big snowboarding trips out west because we thought we could. And we came to Kim at the time, and I wasn't a part of her team, and we said, "Hey, Kim, we'd love to do this real estate, but we have no money." And that's what, like, to her, she's like, "Oh, great, guys, like another couple ambitious dudes without any money want to get into real estate." But for us, like, we were serious. And so I actually read through the book that you see here is Purchasing Real Estate with Little or No Money Down by Brandon Turner. And the cool thing about this is that it doesn't give you one silver bullet on how to invest in real estate. It actually gives you a huge 360 overview over all the ways you can use financing to get into real estate. But again, we were broke, so we had to figure out, if that's our goal, was to buy real estate, we had to figure out how to do it. And this book is really awesome in showing us all the ways we could do that without using our own money, with using other people's money, with using equity. Again, most of this book, I didn't know even what it meant at the time. There were some programs in here and some strategies I didn't even know what he was talking about. But it also just broadened my scope on there are other options. Even though I didn't know what they were, how to utilize them, I just knew they were out there. So that helped us get creative. And until now we've leveraged about $5,000 a piece from our grandma when we first got started to be where we're at today because of these financing strategies. So I look at it, and Brendan Turner has talked about it a ton of times, is financing's like wearing a tool belt. So the tool belt is you as an investor, and you're dropping tools within that tool belt that you can use and pull out. And so an example of that would be owner-occupied financing. That might be the hammer in your tool belt, or a screwdriver. It might be the commercial financing. Is so many people have a stigma against money, and like you need to have it to use it, or it's just how do you leverage it? They're just tools in your tool belt. And so equity, we're going to go over contract for deed, seller financing, what the BRRRR strategy is. And I think I have too many R's there. But I'll show you how to use the BRRRR strategy. And then my favorite way is the mix and match. Is that oftentimes you might purchase a property and you can't really write into your story what options or what tools you'll be able to use for that property in years to come as interest rates start to drop and equity starts to go up. To own real estate is the ability to leverage it, and you can leverage that over time. And we'll talk about that some more. And then my favorite personal financing take is run rate, and we'll talk about that too. But this is our team, Side by Side Realty, and we are growing. And we have these are extraordinary people. Like, even if they didn't have the Side by Side brand on their t-shirt, like this one, I'd still hang out with these people. I love them. Garrett joined us earlier this year. Sylvia is our creative operations intern. Alyssa's been a whip with building out our marketing. So a lot of the stuff that you're seeing is because of Alyssa, and Drew is just hammering production. And you probably, fortunately, had him on one of your deals and saw some success in that. And we're adding one more person as we speak in the bottom right corner, but I'm not going to give her name yet. until later, but she is a badass, and that's a picture of her welding stuff on her recent flip. So I just wanted to share that. Side-by-side realty, and you've heard it before, but we believe in lifestyle and financial freedom can be achieved through real estate. And this isn't a gimmick. It's something that everybody you saw on that last page believes it to our core. And so we want to help our clients do that too. And side-by-side wants to focus on approachable multifamily property. And we like it because you don't have to be rich to invest in the real estate that we love. Small multifamily is 2 units, 3 units, 4 units. How do you leverage single family homes as a house hack situation or a live-in flip? Or real estate is an investment, so we want to teach everybody how to see it that way. The reasons why we invest in real estate are some of it's obvious. Cash flow is you hope that at the end of your month, the income that you're bringing will offset the expenses that it takes them to hold that property. Equity, over time, you'd like to see the equity and appreciation of your property go up so that you can leverage it, or you're just in a really good situation where you're not underwater. Appreciation you don't bank on. We don't buy property based off the appreciation because that's kind of rolling the dice, it's gambling. We buy based off of monthly cash flow, and appreciation is just a bonus. Depreciation, that's about all I have to say about that because I'm not a tax advisor, and there is great tax benefits of owning real estate, and leverage is basically what this presentation is all about, is paying for something without coming up with the full cost to do so. And maybe if somebody can join, just give me some feedback that they can see my presentation okay and not just talking to an empty screen.
Doing great.
Anybody? Melissa?
You're good.
I can see it, Scott.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Cool. Thanks. And see the presentation? Double thumbs up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sweet.
Okay.
Leverage. Moving on. So the first one, we're going to start with pretty basic financing strategies and then work your way up into more creative stuff. Owner-occupied financing, this is our bread and butter. This is how we got started off. It's where you live in one of the units, or you can live in the single family home and obviously rent out some of the bedrooms, or just live in a single family home. But it's financing based on your homesteading of the property. The benefits of doing this, and usually it's called conventional financing for the most part. Low down payments. So it doesn't take a ton of cash out of your pocket. 3.5%, 5%, 15% are pretty standard programs to live in property. FHA conventional are the two programs that you would use, is a conventional 5% or 15% down, or an FHA at 3.5%. They are 30-year fixed mortgages. So right now with interest rates where they are, it's fantastic to leverage these programs for 30 years and have a fixed payment with such low interest rates. You can get gift funds if you live in property. So like if an in-law or a brother wants to gift you funds to be able to purchase property, you can. And the downfall with these programs is because you're not putting a ton of money on the table or bringing a lot of skin into the game for these lenders, is they want to see a mortgage insurance. Especially for an investment property, the way I look at it, mortgage insurance is, the meaning of the mortgage insurance is basically you paying for insurance so that you don't default on your own home for the mortgage lender. It's usually anywhere between $100 to $150 per month, depending on your purchase price. And build that into your operating expense. So when you're running your cash flow analysis on the property, tack on mortgage insurance like you would CapEx. And these are some things that we'll talk about later, but use it as an expense for managing your business, which is the rental property, and just tack it in there. So it's not going to break a deal as long as you build out your numbers properly. And it is the major reason for rising multifamily prices, or small multifamily prices in the Twin Cities, is because people are living in one unit offsetting their mortgage, they're not looking for a great cash flow as much as they're looking for to offset their biggest living expense. And so they can push the price points a little higher, and they're coming with a little cash out of pocket. So they're okay with spending an extra $25,000 on their property because they're just bringing 3.5% to the table. So it's the reason why duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes are seeing a decent premium that's putting for an average investor that's just running based off of non-owner occupied money or financing and numbers, is it's putting the price point a little bit outside their reach. So here's an example of when I've owner occupied something with my wife, Jenny. And this duplex is a big old side-by-side purchase in Hopkins about 2 years ago. When I purchased it, it was November of 2018 for $359,000. And at the time, I remember being at the closing table, my gut was turning because I thought I was buying at the top of the market. November is if you've been in real estate long enough, November does see some seasonality. So the market felt like it was dipping. And then here I am buying this big old duplex. It turns out 2 years later, it's a really good idea. And I'll show you more on that later. But the loan type I used was a conventional 5% down. My down payment was $17,900, and my monthly mortgage was $2,300, and rent from the other side is $1,775. So to be in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot unit for only $555 a month in Hopkins, it's a pretty sweet deal for us. So yeah, although I was nervous about it, it's turning out pretty great. And that's Porter, and before Weston, Jenny and Scott. Conventional mortgages is what we've been talking about, is owner-occupied financing. And I'm going to show you the difference between conventional and commercial. And sometimes we get this mixed up, but again, you think about, you're putting on your tool belt, these are two different tools that you can use to purchase real estate. Conventional, 30-year fixed. Commercial is a little more variable. But here's the differences. Conventional money, so like some of you might be familiar with Kim Burke or Connor Hash with Bell Bank and Leader One. They always approve you on conventional. Commercial is different. Commercial financing would be similar to like the Bridgewaters, the community resource banks, some of the other commercial guys in town, Lake area. But conventional is more concerned about the person being able to pay for the mortgage. Commercial is more concerned about the investment paying for the mortgage. And that's where the fundamental difference comes in. And that's where commercial can get a more creative, and conventional has to hold you to certain debt to income ratios. Because of that, 30-year and 15-year fixed are easy to come by from a conventional perspective, whereas commercial can be more variable for those fixed terms. And you see a lot of 7 to 10 years. So if you're locking in an interest rate for 7 to 10 years, and so if interest rates change over that time, that's where a lot of your risk comes into play. You just got to be very savvy with what you're doing, and don't skip slides. Low down payments. Commercial is definitely between 20 and 25% that they're looking for skin in the game, whereas conventional wants 3.5%, 5%, 15%. So it's more of your lower down payment options, and commercial wants more skin in the game. So 20, 25%. Conventional world, it's insured by Fannie and Freddie, whereas commercial can really do whatever they want. Commercial tends to have higher interest rates, although lately they're pretty comparable to the conventional world. Conventional has more strict guidelines. Yeah. Again, commercial is more variable. As far as conventional goes, you have to buy in your name. So Scott Hoefler has to buy property, or Alyssa Strom has to buy property, whereas commercial, you can buy in a business name. And so if somebody's worried about liability and piercing the corporate veil and all that good stuff, you definitely would probably go the commercial route and buy everything through an LLC if you're worried about financial liability with the property. So here's an example of two different types of financing and investments using commercial and conventional. The top 3 properties, and this shows you how creative you can get, is it's called a package purchase. So we purchased 3 duplexes as a package, me, Garrett, and Drew, back in 2018. And we used a commercial loan to do that, is because they were all wrapped up in one loan, whereas conventional would need them purchased separately. The purchase price was $260,000. We had to come with 25% to the table. So the downstroke was pretty large at 155,000, and our mortgage was 4,000. The terms at the time were 7-year fixed. So we locked our interest rate in for 7 years at a 20-year amortization at 5.5 interest rates. And interest rates are better these days. And we'll show you how we leveraged lower interest rates on these properties later. And rent at the time was 9,600, and our net was 5,600. So when your mortgage, your utilities, all of our fixed expenses were paid out, we were making a pretty good net on those properties. They were an off-market purchase, and that Garrett found through some of his networking. And the conventional purchase that you see below is a fourplex, and this is straight. We did not move into any of these units. We just bought the fourplex, but it was still a conventional purchase, so a 30-year fixed. But if we didn't move in, we still had to bring 25% of the table or money to the table. It's our skin in the game. Most mortgage lenders, especially from the conventional world, if you're not going to live there, they're going to want to see more down, because you're not it's more risky to loan to somebody who's not living in the property than somebody who's living in the property and doesn't want to become homeless. So a loan type is 25% down, $100,000. Mortgage, interest, taxes, and insurance is $2,200, and our rent was $3,900, and so we're making a $1,700 per month on that investment. Again, difference between commercial and conventional. You could use either program for either properties, but the top three we'd have to split up if we were going to use conventional. Equity plays. So like we talked about before, over time, hopefully your property value goes up, and equity is the difference between what you owe on the property and the market value. So if you had an appraiser walk in and they gave you a property or a price on that property, and then you look at your mortgage statement and you're like, oh, I owe this amount, the difference between what the appraiser says and what you owe on the property, hopefully is a gain for your part. And that difference, you can actually start leveraging that to hopefully buy more properties if you set it up right. So the first way to leverage that equity is a HELOC. And so a HELOC is a home equity line of credit, and you can, while living in the home, pull that money out and pay a certain interest rate for a certain amount of fixed term for the years. And you either use that for renovations on that home to force equity back in the home, or if you do it right, and definitely talk to one of us about how, or Kim Burke or some of your other loan officers on how to use a home equity line of credit to buy more real estate. It's a little tricky, but you can navigate it, and I've done it quite a few times. Line of credit. So the difference between a home equity loan and a line of credit is a home equity loan is fixed. So you would pull the entire, let's just say you had $40,000 in equity in a home, you'd pull that all out and then you'd start paying on it. Line of credit, that's like a revolving bank account. So you might have access to $40,000, but you don't pay on it until you start using it. So you might say, okay, I want to put new windows in this house, 10,000 here. Okay, I want to remodel the bathroom and kitchen here. Okay, 20,000 there. And so now you have 30,000 of that 40,000 out, and now you're paying interest on that $30,000 to $40,000. The difference between the two is home equity line of credit is usually got better terms, interest rates. You can fix it over time, whereas a line of credit, it fluctuates with the market. So your interest rate might be up one year, might be down one year. There's a little more risk involved, but it's if you're smart, it's a better tool because you can actually replenish it and pull it back out, where the other one is just fixed. Cash out refinance. This is great, especially if you're trying to do a BRRRR strategy. So buy, remodel, refinance, repeat. And a cash out refinance allows you to pull up to 75% out of the property. So we'll get into that later, but it allows you to get money back. I don't want to confuse people too much. And then a refinance is a straight up, you refinance to change the term. So capitalize on interest rates dropping, you might refinance. And that's happening a lot these days with interest rates as low as they are, is if you bought real estate in the last 3 years, I would highly suggest reaching out to your loan officer and refining, because you can capitalize on some really, really low interest rates, and historically the lowest they've ever seen in the entire real estate world. And so if we're going to do one step further, so that last slide was just how do you leverage the equity in your home, the difference between the market value and what you owe on the property. Then these are other options. So think about it. You're still dropping tools into your tool belt. A contract for deed is not being used as much today as it has been in the last probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. But it basically is an agreement between you and the seller to purchase their home at a later date, and then you pay the current mortgage on the home until that later date. Seller financing, this happens more with commercial deals, is actually if a seller is looking, let's just say a seller is looking to sell a warehouse and it's $800,000. A seller might be willing to help finance some of that 20% down payment that you need for the $800,000. So if they're a savvy investor, if they don't want to 1031 the entire proceeds into another property, they might be willing to do seller back financing. Definitely worth looking into if you're working on a commercial deal. A BRRRR strategy, we'll go over that later. Hard money has to do with BRRRR strategy. It's expensive money, but it allows you to get into a home that maybe needs some significant rehab costs, and that a conventional lender might not be interested in. One, it might be uninhabitable, so they might not have the mechanicals, or it might be in such rough shape nobody can live there. So a hard money lender will come in and lend on a deal like that. Partnerships are invaluable, but I would definitely be cautious on who you partner with. And then private lending is the most creative you can get in any of these options, is raising other people's money and then setting the terms and getting creative with how you contract those investments. So the BRRRR strategy, this is a beautiful way to invest in money in real estate without using a ton of money out of pocket. You can get these deals still today. So you just got to be very careful, have a ton of great networks of people who are kicking up distressed property, but it is purchasing a distressed property like you're seeing in the picture to the left. And Garrett found this through some of his networks, and it was a really sweet deal, even though it doesn't look like it to the left. On paper, it was great. We purchased it for $70,000. And so that would be the buy in the BRRRR strategy. We used a hard money lender who we're still in contact with today, which is great. And the renovation costs. So what you do is you have a contractor walk through the home, and he puts together a scope of work on what it would take to renovate to a certain point. And so that certain point is based off of all the comps in the area of a home of this style with the kind of kitchens and bath remodel that you're looking to do. That will give you your ARV, so your after repaired value. So you're pulling comps on what the scope of work will match, and what that scope of work matches when it's all said and done will be the after repaired value. The cool thing is the hard money lender will lend on behalf of the after repaired value. And so most hard money lenders will go up to 70% of that final number. So when you're all said and done with it, what is it worth? $215,000 in this case. A hard money lender will give you 70% of that. And that 70% can actually be used for the purchase of the asset, as crappy it is as it is, and the renovation costs. And so if you do it right, in this case, our hard money lender was going to give us $150,000, and our all-in costs for renovating the home and making it look as beautiful as you see was $135,000. So there's actually some margin for error, about $15,000 between what the hard money lender will give us for the project and what the project costs was. Fast forward, ideally you get the project done. Some of you know the story behind this. It wasn't as smooth as what I'm showing here, but ideally you get the project done between 3 and 6 months. And then here's the refi part, is you come in and have a conventional lender or another lender refi you into a 30-year fix. So based off that $215,000, a conventional lender can give you 75% So that 5% will cover not only the original hard money lender, so you're basically paying that hard money lender off, and now you have 5% left over for origination fees and all the lender fees. So the conventional lender in this case would give us 161. So 161 minus 150 is actually 10,000 left over for all incidents, fees, and all that good stuff. And if you see here, none of this money came out of our bank account. So this is all done using other people's money and a financing strategy that leverages low money to no money out of pocket if it's done right. So definitely talk to your realtor, your loan officer, get people involved so that you can do this right, because as you'll see in other presentations, we didn't do this right, but this is still the final project. So it turned out good. It was just a lot more expensive than we anticipated for a variety of reasons. So that's the BRRRR strategy. Mix and match. So as you get further along in investing and start using these programs in different ways, you can mix and match them to grow your portfolio. And I'll show you some slides on how we did that. So this is Jenny and myself, Jenny and my portfolio, 3 duplexes, and all of which we've moved into leveraging owner occupied financing, but we layered some of it. And so the first one, Jenny and I got married, lived in the lower unit, renovated a little bit, added a new kitchen, refinished the hardwood floors. But our original purchase was in 2015. Look at those numbers. This is the heart of Northeast for $215,000. Pretty nice back then. Loan type was FHA, and our down payment was $7,500. So we're living here. First year of marriage, super happy, just loving life. We decided, hey, we want to buy another duplex together. And so we go, and the middle one is in Seward. And in order to do that, we had to leverage another FHA program. But as you can tell, we already used one. And so we went back to our first property and we refied it. And luckily, we had some appreciation, some equity in the home, and it praised out at $290,000. Well, the cool thing is that's more than 25% left loan to value. So we were actually able to do a 25% down conventional refi, and which turned that into a straight up investment loan, which freed up our FHA. So we got rid of our FHA on the first property, freed up another FHA, used that FHA to buy our second duplex. That continues. So we're next 2 to 3 years of our marriage, we're hanging out here, super happy. And we decide, hey, let's buy another duplex. But we don't have a ton of money in our pocket. We're trying to pay off some student debt. I'm making a few career changes. And so one of the investors in our millennials group gave a presentation, and they said it great. It's like, they didn't have a ton of money, but they also did a 180 and looked at their current resources, and they're like, okay, what kind of resources are we currently sitting on, and how do we leverage those resources? For Jenny and I, as we looked at, okay, we're sitting in this duplex, how do we leverage this duplex to be able to buy another one? Again, we had some appreciation in the time between 2017 and the end of 2018. There was a huge appreciation boom in some of the duplex markets, and we were luckily in Seward, which saw that. And so we were able to do a HELOC on this home and pull out up to 80% of the equity in the home, which gave us about $88,000 to work with. And with that $88,000, we used that to purchase our third duplex. And so we had some left over because our third duplex purchase was a 5% conventional. And that on our down payment was only $17,000. And which gave us some money left over to do some renovations in another property of ours and renovations in the current duplex in Hopkins. And so we went all out. We love Hopkins. This is a big enough home to grow our family. So we put quartz countertops in. We dropped a wall, hardwood floors throughout. We put air conditioning in, a back patio, remodeled the bathroom. And so we spent about $40,000 in renovations, which also it's forcing equity into the home. Because if you do anything like renovations or add square footage, you're adding equity into it. Not only are you waiting for for the property to go up in value over time, you're forcing equity into it through renovations. And so we're actually closing on this refi on Friday, and in 2020, the appraised value of the side-by-side is $453,000. That is quite a difference between 360, what we bought it for, and 453. And that was all using the renovation money and appreciation. And so now with that refi, we're capitalizing on the lower interest rates that we're seeing since 2018 and dropping our monthly mortgage payment by $300. And if we wanted to, we could probably do another home equity line of credit in the current home to buy more real estate. So that just shows you, like, owner occupied is probably the base of these loan programs, but then you can start layering them up so you can buy more real estate. And if you don't like debt, obviously this is not going to be the greatest option for you. Focus on a couple of properties and paying those debts down so that you can generate more cash flow that way. But this is our strategy for growing our portfolio. So here's more layering. So this one is a similar example to what I gave you before. Same properties, but fast forward a couple of years. So this is layering up commercial financing, seller financing, private money, refis. So this is a mixed bag, and that's why you go back to reading that book by Brandon Turner, is purchasing property with little to no money down. Put it on your toolbox, drop the tools, and then get to work. And so commercial package we purchased for $620. It was a commercial loan for 25% down. And what really happened during this that I didn't want to get you confused with on the last time is actually the seller did give some money to the table. We ran into some issues. So I got a call from our loan officer 2 days before closing that said we had to bring an extra 5% to the table. And Garrett Gordon just asked me who is Brandon Turner. It's an inside joke, but that I obviously think is funny that nobody's laughing at right now. Seller financing of $100,000 and then private. So they said, hey, you need to come with an extra 5% if you want to close on the property tomorrow. We're like, crap, I don't have 5% more of $620,000. So you got to get creative. And because I've read the book, because I've talked to a number of people, we decided, okay, the other $55,000 that we had to bring to the table, we're going to do some private financing. Still, we don't want to use any of the cash out of our own pocket. That's our MO. So we're going to get strategic. We're going to get creative on how to do that. Fast forward to 2019 is we bought these duplexes at a discount and they went up in value significantly. And so through working with Kim, we did refi each one of these duplexes into our personal names. So that allowed us to pull some more cash out of pocket, and the cash that we pulled out of pocket, or more cash out of the properties, and the cash that we pulled out, we used to purchase a fourplex. And so that fourplex, as you saw before, was a conventional purchase. So over time, property goes up, hopefully. If it does, you can start leveraging that money, and definitely work with your loan officers to get creative to do so. So this is a really great example of just layering your financing programs on top of each other. And we're actually in the process of refining the fourplex now to drop our interest rate even further so we can generate more monthly cash flow. So what I just showed you was ways of increasing your passive income through purchase of real estate, through refinancing to drop your monthly payments down. What I want to talk to you about is your run rate. So your run rate is, what does it cost you to live in this world every single month? So in the left, you'll see a graph. I'm gonna take a drink of water while you look at the graph. You should probably write it in your notebook because it's super important. So what does it take for you to live? And oftentimes we get confused. We think, okay, as our income goes up, So should our living expense. That's wrong. Most people are doing this, and then they're trying to make their living standard meet their monthly income, and they think they deserve it. You think well, I mean, you kind of do. You've worked hard, so you go out and buy that really nice car, you buy that bigger home, you increase your debt load, and the reality is, what we should be doing is keeping our run rate down, because the difference between your income and your expenses is that's true financial freedom. My buddy who is just on Bigger Pockets said it best the other day. He's like, I look at financial freedom as I look at all my expenses and then I look at my income or passive income. So the income that you're making without having to work at an hourly job to get it, if that one exceeds your expenses, you have financial freedom. So make sure you're always keeping your debts down. And so if there's anything you can take from this page is increase your income, decrease your debts. Increase your income, decrease your standard of living. So the story is investing can get hard. There's a lot of issues you can run into. It can get stressful. You're shelling out a ton of money. And I remember when I first graduated college, I wanted to move out to Denver, and like every recent college grad does. And so me and my buddy jump in the car and drive out there, and then we'd pull up in front of a house that we wanted to rent, and and behind us pulls up a gorgeous matte 4Runner, and it's got stickers on the back, just like the beautiful 4Runner that you see in Colorado. And out jumps the landlord, and he shakes our hand and he says, okay, let's go tour the property. Walk through the property, look it over. We meet back out in the front yard, and he says, guys, I gotta go, but if you're super interested, give me a text or email and I'll follow back up with you. Jumps in his 4Runner and drives away. And I look at that guy and it's like, I want to be him. And I didn't know at the time, but I first saw him going to pick up his kids from school and going camping for the weekend, or throwing his snowboard in the back and going snowboarding for the day. And he was really doing anything but going back to his 9 to 5. And what I didn't know at the time is that I associated him and his freedom and where he was going for that day and what he was doing with real estate. I wanted to be him because I saw that he had all of this time and freedom and passive income from this real estate endeavor that he was doing, and this property that is showing us. So some kid fresh out of college, doesn't know anything, is buried with student debt, excited to go into his 401k job and start his 9 to 5, wanted to be some dude that he just met while touring a property, because I thought real estate was the answer and I didn't even know it at the time. So just understand, like, why are you investing in real estate and what is it for, so that you can weather a lot of the storms that come. So this is how you can get connected with us, as we are online. As you can tell, in the last year, I think we've gone even more virtual like everybody else. We have an Instagram account, which is cool. And I'm going to open it up for questions. This is how you can find me, this phone number and email address. But let me stop sharing so that we can open it for questions.
Hey, Scott, this is Mike Renz. How are you?
Well, Drew asked, when building your portfolio with your wife, how did communication and talks go with her? This is a conversation that's near and dear to my heart, because there's nothing more important to me than my marriage, and business comes into a far second. And Jenny actually comes from a more conservative background than I do. Obviously, I was racking up credit card debt while trying to buy real estate at the same time. And so for me, real estate it made sense. And one thing that Jenny and I did early on in our marriage is, obviously we both want a single family, one home, one day. It is a dream of ours. But when we first got married, we wanted to buy a little more real estate before we did that. And I did a side-by-side comparison as I showed her what it would cost to own a single family, and then I showed her what it costs to own a duplex. And I think that just shows you that the single family home, yeah, it was beautiful, but at the bottom of that spreadsheet, it was a red number. And at the bottom of the spreadsheet of the duplex is a green number. And for her to see the numbers firsthand after seeing that spreadsheet, she's like, okay, I'm all in. And the cool thing is I stacked another duplex on top of that first one, and that green number got even bigger. So it's just showing the rational numbers behind it, and kind of pushing the emotional side just a little bit to the side. To get started, it would be my suggestion, is because oftentimes as in young investors or investors getting started, we're in it all the time. We're consuming podcasts and reading books, and we can't expect our partner to be as far along on that journey as we are. And it's your responsibility, not hers, to get there, or not his to get there. Is you have to help them along that path, because you're the one on the path, not them. So I think that spreadsheet and that side-by-side comparison was huge for getting her on board. More questions coming in the chat. Just keep sending them.
Hey, Scott, did I miss something?
Is there any challenges? Alex Rodriguez asked, were there any challenges when trying to close on the FHA 3.5% down for the duplex you purchased? There's always challenges when buying real estate. You'll never have a smooth sailing closing. If you do, let me know who your realtor was, because no, I want to hire them. No, there's always challenges involved. And FHA is a tricky program for the most part, is because FHA doesn't like investors using their program to buy real estate. They have just a natural pushback on that. And so if you're using FHA to buy a duplex, there's some things that duplex has to meet. So they're big sticklers on safety items. So if there's handrails not in the home and there's peeling paint, they will push back when you're in the transaction. Some investors don't like selling their investment property to FHA owners because FHA has a bad rap, or a historically bad rap. So you have to have a good realtor that can help convince that listing agent and that seller that using an FHA is not a bad move. You just have to have some experience with doing so. So to answer your question, Alex, it does come with some hurdles, but the reality is it's like one of the few programs that you can use to owner occupied duplexes these days. So FHA gets used all the time for duplexes. We're just going to keep asking questions in the chat box so we don't have to speak. Adam says, when you have an FHA loan, can you move into another owner occupied investment property only if you refinance? No, you can hold so I have on that Seward house, we still have the FHA on that home. So once your FHA matures a year, you can use the 5% program. Loan guidelines vary all the time, so I wouldn't bank on always being able to use a 5%. But for example, the easiest way to do it is use an FHA, purchase a duplex, be in that duplex for a year, and then you can move out and use a 15% down. So you can use other owner-occupied programs while still having a FHA on one of the homes that you've purchased before. You can also have an FHA on a duplex and then convince the FHA world that you're ready for a single-family home, and then go use an FHA for a single family. But it's easier to get a 5% conventional on a single family, so you don't necessarily need your FHA if you got good credit. FHA is designed for people with not so great credit and high debt to income ratios. Mike Renz, if you don't start off by owning a duplex or a multifamily home and you purchase a single family home, what is the best way to move towards financial leverage to invest in additional real estate? Great question. Actually, a lot of investors in our networks leverage, if you and your wife are open to it, or you or your wife or anybody who wants to do this, is if you live in a single family home with some equity in, so wait another year or two, or do a substantial remodel on that home to force some equity into it, and you have equity, you can pull the equity out of your single family home and use that as a down payment on another investment property. Other ways are, some people are using their if you don't have the money for a down payment, you can use a 401k. You can partner with a family member for the down payment if you don't have it. You can flip a property, generate enough cash from that flip to use as a down payment on another home. You can get creative, like I said, in some commercial investments, you don't even have to come with any money out of your own pocket. You can ask the seller to finance some of the down payment. You can raise money from private investors who like the investment that you have as a down payment on that. And you don't even have to use any cash out of your own pocket. You just use other people's money. So there's plenty of ways to get into investing, even if you don't owner occupied your duplex to do it. Those examples were mostly to show that you can layer programs on top of each other, but that doesn't have to be the only way you do it. Adam said, if you want to move out in under a year, put simply, what options do you have if you want to move out of your FHA house in under a year? Can you move out in under a year if you refi to a conventional? If you refi, you're basically stacking another year onto that owner-occupied program home. So if you refi at a 5%, for example, and it's another owner-occupied loan, you have to be there another year. So the year starts back up. To be out within a year, the thing is, you're trying to create a story that the underwriters believe, and I would hopefully you're not lying to anybody. So underwriters want to know, why do you want to move out of your FHA within a year? So maybe your family's growing and you're only in a 1-bedroom unit of a duplex using an FHA in that home. So you're like, okay, my family's growing, I need a 2-bedroom. They'll let you move out within the year, hopefully. At home business, you need another bedroom for an office, or you need to turn a basement into an office, and you could move out sooner than a year. If you move significantly further for a job, you can reuse your FHA in a duplex at that point. So job relocation or relocation will allow you to be able to move out within a year and leverage another program. So you have to have a significant change in your current living situation to be able to change that situation in a year. You could always move out within the year and rent somewhere, or go move back in with your parents. Nobody's keeping you from leaving the home. You just cannot leverage another owner-occupied loan if you're looking to try to do that within a year without a substantial change in your situation. I would use a 5% conventional to get started, and then an FHA next if you can. So that if you're going to owner occupied something and you want to grow your portfolio, 5% first, FHA second, 15% conventional next. Standard, you can again refi and do a bunch of stuff in between that, but that's basically your stepping steer for programs. The cool thing, debt to income ratios, definitely talk to your loan officer about all this, but it goes back to the run rate. So as you're applying for more mortgages and more debt, you want to keep your run rates down. So going out and buying that brand new Ford F-150 where your payments are $550 a month will be count against you when you go to apply for another loan. So the fact that you bought that $5,000 F-150 that's 15 years old and driving that around without the $550 month payment allows you to go after more money. So they want to see your debt to income ratios as low as possible. So keep your debts down so that you can leverage more money. Again, if you like debt. If you don't like debt, pay off all your properties, pay off all your cars, live a very frugal lifestyle, and you'll get to that financial freedom too. It's just two different ways of looking at it. Thanks, Drew. So I like when your twin brother gives you a pat on the back. Any other questions related to financing? And there's a lot here, and I know I harped on owner occupied a little bit, but that's basically how we got started and how a lot of our clients are getting started. But know that there's so many different programs out there. Like I said, the contract for deed and commercial programs, BRRRR strategies, hard money, private lending, listen to podcasts, read books, follow our forums. Alyssa's writing some great articles about how to get into real estate, and there's a lot of different avenues you can take. If you bought a single family home with your wife already, that doesn't keep you from investing in real estate. To me, I was listening to Matthew McConaughey the other day, and because some people are like, I have kids, so I can't pursue my dreams. Like, what the shit? You have kids, so you do pursue your dreams. I feel like you got married, so that should light a fire under you to be able to pursue your dreams even more. Is because I have kids, I have dreams. And so if you dream of investing in real estate and eventually saying goodbye to your 9 to 5, and not everybody has to say goodbye to 9 to 5. What we're really trying to teach is I want to give you the choice on whether you can say goodbye to your 9 to 5 or not. If you love it, stay there. But know that you don't have to because of finances. Is that financial constraint that we're putting on our lives by trying to live outside our means is keeping us miserable in the jobs that we don't want to be at. Have a kid, buy a duplex. Yeah, that one's good. So I think that's it for the presentation. I want to keep them within an hour so I can pay attention to you guys' time. Don't want you to spend the rest of your night with me. But thanks for joining. And this has been recorded, so we'll send it out to everybody. And if there's any other questions, have an awesome evening. And I'll see you next week. Remember when I was talking about the BRRRR strategy? I'm actually going to do a deep dive into how that turned out to be one of the biggest investment mistakes of our lives next Tuesday. And so you'll see me kind of pull back the curtain and show that investing in real estate, even for Scott, Drew, Garrett, and Alyssa, isn't all it's cracked up to be. There's definitely some blunders, and we continue to make them. So tune in next week to see all of our mistakes. That'll be fun. I usually present that one with a beer in hand because it makes me so nervous. But I'll talk to you all later.